Hey guys, it's Damien again from Marketing Food Online. This will be the second question I just wanted to follow up with tonight from one of my subscribers in regards to co-packing. I have done quite a few videos actually about co-packers and some of the benefits and pros and cons. They're not always necessarily it's a win-win situation. There's a handful of things that you need to be aware of if you're going to take that route in mass producing your product. It is a great idea, and when it's done and executed properly, it could be very, very lucrative. Yes, it could be. Now, the question that I got was actually from the same gentleman that was requesting information about the shipping rates. And his question was about co-packers and when it comes to recipes, for instance, or if it comes to the actual product itself, do the co-packers have their own, or do they have a product that they have manufactured so often within their facilities that maybe they've got a recipe for, or does it really matter what any product that you make and it's actually a co-packer product, is it always going to be lucrative and profitable? Well, those are great questions. For instance, from my own understanding of what I've known over the past few years of co-packers, traditionally you come up with your own recipe. You will come to them with all of the needed information as far as recipe, ingredients, process to make it as well, which is super important. There are a lot of co-packers facilities where they will have a set facility with machinery that produces it in bulk, yes, but there are also steps along the way and certain recipes and certain production of food products that you have to meet that recipe step by step. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot of co-packers that have processes already built into their company or their facility. Yes, they do. But there are certain parts of the recipes, maybe it's either at the beginning or it's in the middle or part of the packaging process and the processing itself that may vary by recipe. Okay, based upon like trail mixes or dry mixes or herb blends or soup mixes. If there's a facility that creates dry soup mixes, the amount of the ratio may be different by recipe, but the actual process to put all of them together may be the same. Okay, so first off, traditionally you use your own recipe. When you want to first contact a co-packer, they're going to ask you what type of a food product, obviously. Is it something that they make to begin with? Again, every facility is different. The one that makes dry soup mixes is not going to be the one that makes candy brittle, okay? Just because they don't have the equipment set up to do that. Many of the ones that have soup mixes or dry mixes and herb blends and such have equipment that is set and pre-made, and it specifically makes those types of products. So they're not always going to just pick up the phone and say, hi, I want you guys to make me some candy. They're going to tell you, well, we don't necessarily make candy. So in the process that you do, when you eventually find the co-packer who does that, they're going to ask you if you've got a recipe or do you have a process that's set up to do it. Keep in mind now, once they say, okay, well, that sounds great, we're going to need your recipe, what you would do is you would send that into them. They would take a look at it and see if those processes that they have within their facility will match the recipe that you've got, okay? Also, supplies are all up front. You front it all. Now, this is kind of a tricky situation. When you go to a co-packer, what they're going to say is, all right, we see what your recipe is. Now, are you going to source it or do you want us to source it? Some of the, I don't want to say higher end, but some of the co-packers who have been around, there are some who have been around for decades, okay? They have the ins and out of the industry. They know the companies. They know places that they can get ingredients. They may offer for an extra fee. You got to keep this in mind. Nobody does this stuff for free. So everything I'm about to tell you may be an extra in addition to meeting other minimum requirements that they're going to ask you for. So they're going to say, hey, you know what, Damien, that sounds great. I love your recipe. Okay, do you have the ability to bring together, we had the facility, but I have to buy all of the dry mixes, the different ingredients to create the dry soup mix, let's say. And I have to bring them together and have them shipped to their facility. Okay, and then they're going to check it in. They're going to make sure they have all the right amounts and the right proportions, et cetera, et cetera. Some of these co-packers will offer that service. You will have to pay for that. But they'll say, okay, we'll order it for you. Logistically, we'll bring all the product in, and we'll have it all set, and then we can start the production. Okay? Now, if you want to do that, again, it's going to vary the price. The money's going to vary. Every co-packer has a different amount, different set percentage, et cetera, of what they're going to charge you. Because you got to keep this in mind. Supplies are up front. This is also going to include what type of a bag, Damien, what type of bag are you going to put in? Do you have a box company? Is it a custom box? Where is that coming from? You have to bring in the box. You'd have to bring in the bag. You got to bring in the spices. You bring all that stuff into them, or they could say, you know what, we'll do it all for you. Okay, and the per unit extra cost is 10 cents. So you're probably thinking, wow, that's great. 10 cents, that's not much. Well, our minimum is 10,000 units. So now 10 cents just turned into times 10,000, and now you can see how it adds up. Okay, and this is only part of the process as far as the financial end of it. Okay, co-packers like this will have minimums, and traditionally those minimums are going to be in the thousands. I personally have never come across a smaller co-packer. There are some that I have found online. I don't know too much personally about those, but they do smaller minimum runs, and some of them are like 500 units, 700 units, and so on. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be cheaper. The per unit price actually may be the same when you're doing a 10,000 or larger order, because many of these co-packers are very small, and for them, their costs are a little higher based upon in comparison to a larger facility. Hopefully that makes sense. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a smaller per unit cost. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. So just keep in mind that when it comes to supplies, you're going to need to bring together into these facilities all of the ingredients, the recipe, the boxes, everything that's going to be needed to package the product, okay? And then from there, you need to also understand that they're going to ship it, they're going to handle the logistics and ship it either back to you or whomever you're shipping it to. If you're shipping it to ABC grocery store, they're going to ship it there too. So keep in mind the shipping factor, okay? So, and again, all of these variables, that's why I can't get too very specific about the cost factor, because every co-packer is going to have a variance, okay? And I don't have the crystal ball for that. I don't know what every co-packer will charge, but I'm going to let you know that these are the types of things, though, that you need to be aware of before you approach them, okay? And this is just a small fraction of what they may have, some additional information they may need, or different ingredients, or also the turnaround time. All of those things vary based upon each individual co-packer, okay? So last thing again, yes, production margins, large minimums of shipping. So again, the margins, keep that in mind. Every little bit adds up. In food business, when you're mass producing a product, pennies become dollars, and dollars become hundreds, and hundreds become thousands, okay? When you've got product margins that are really tight, and they start talking to you about, hey, you know what, I could do that for you, it's only about 5 cents a unit. I could do that for you, it's going to be 10 cents a unit. You really don't, when you want to break down the costs, overall, you're going to be looking at these individual units accumulating and becoming a big difference in your profit. You know, if you're shipping out 10,000 units of a soup mix and you're making a few $100s on 10,000 units, you gotta figure out a better way to do it, okay? And it may be not necessarily the co-packer issue. It may be how many hands are in it, because keep this in mind as well. This is something very interesting. Is there's a lot of people who go through distributors, okay? And what they'll do is they'll have a co-packer produce 100,000 units. And they're saying, well, I utilize a distributor, and the distributor gets it out to all the different stores, and he ships to 500 stores, whatever it may be. Now you got to keep in mind the distributor is going to take his cut too. So let's just hypothetically say 100,000 units. You sell it to them for $1 a piece, okay? It's going to cost the distributor $100,000, okay? They're not going to pay you, by the way, right off the bat. Normally they're going to give you that 30 to 90 day net, okay? That's traditionally how they work. When you go to the co-packer, by the way, they're going to want their money, at least a portion of it, up front. Some of them actually have a lot of it. You got to keep in mind your ingredients, your boxes, all of the cost of the product too needs to be considered, because you're going to have to come up with all of that first. They're not going to do all this for free, and then when they're done, they're going to say, oh, by the way, you can pay us now. That's not really how it works. Some instances, some co-packing companies, again, this is based on every company's different. Some co-packers say, look, you can front half of it up front, and then when we produce the remaining full amount, you owe the other half at the end of it for the production run, okay? That's not the ingredients and all that. You are responsible for that. So just keep that in mind, okay? These are the questions you need to know. And when you pick up that phone and you talk to a co-packer, hey, I need to ask you this list of questions. They're traditionally, they'll send you a packet of information, or they'll email you with some type of breakdown of what they do and the cost and the minimums and all that stuff. So questions, Ask, ask, ask. Thank you for asking this question. That was a great question, by the way. But just keep in mind that a lot of this, what you're going to do up front, you got to front it yourself, okay? So I hope that information helped you out, and if it did, do give me a big thumbs up. If it did not, and I wasted 10 minutes of your time, give me a thumbs down. Thanks, guys.